Hello YouTube and welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm going to go through something very simple, very easy that you can use to make your running technique or running form better. There's obviously lots and lots of different ways that you can work on your technique, but if you're just looking to get a little bit better at running and improve your speed, your time and your performance, then this very simple exercise is probably what's going to yield the best results for you. So there are lots of things that you can do to improve your gait or your running technique or your form, but this simple exercise today is the thing that I use the most, and it's probably what's going to yield you the best results and the quickest time for you to improve your running. So all you need to do is find yourself a hill that's of medium gradient, so nothing too flat and certainly nothing that's too steep. You want to get something that's kind of just in that sweet spot. So once you find the hill with that sweet spot, what you're going to do is you're going to hit it at about 80% to 90% of your all-out speed, so probably about a 1 mile PB time. And when you're running up the hill, it's going to cause you to do three specific things. The first thing it's going to do is going to ever so slightly shorten your stride length. So when you land, your stride is not going to be as long as it would usually be when you're doing these kind of strides on a flat surface. So the first thing that's going to happen is that in order for that stride to be a little bit shorter, you're going to have a little bit more flexion in the front of the hip, a little bit more flexion at the knee, and that ankle dorsiflex is going to have to be a little bit higher. So it's just changing your gait ever so slightly, but it's definitely adding a little bit more than what you would get if you're on the flat surface. So that's going to do a couple of things when we're doing these heel repeats. So that when you hit the ground, you're not going to be as heel striking as much as you would on the flatter surface. You're going to be much more of a mid strike. And that's going to decrease your ground contact time. So your time on the ground is going to be ever so slightly less because you're not going to have that big heel striking into the ground that you would usually have on the flat. Like I said, it'll be much more mid-foot, and that's going to have a much quicker turnover. Because your stride length is a little bit less, and we're getting all that flexion through the hip, the knee, and the ankle, it's going to just improve neuromuscular pathways, and therefore enable you to get much quicker turnover when you return back to the flat ground. The second thing it's going to do for you when you're running on the uphill is it's going to encourage a lot of variation. So when we just run on the flat, we get used to using specific parts of our quads, our glutes, our hamstrings, our calves, tibialis anterior, and the plantar aspect of all those muscles and structures run across the front of the foot. But when we start to change the terrain, bringing in that little bit of incline, shortening our stride length, giving us more flexion in the hip, knee and ankle, it's going to cause much more variation in our running. And variation is always good no matter what you do in life. The more varied that we can get the specificity around all those muscles that we're using, the better we're going to be when we return back to the flat. So we're going to have not just the usual neuromuscular pathways, we're going to have the new ones that we've developed on the hill. We're also going to have the strength that we're going to build up in those strange muscle fibers that we don't usually use when we run just on the flat surface. And then the third thing that we're going to improve when we're doing that is that when we're doing our lift off from the ground, we're going to have to be much more explosive in that calf area. So coming up through the gastrocnemius and the soleus muscles, the plantar fascia of the foot, the Achilles tendon, all those muscular and tendinous structures across the foot are going to have to work at a much harder rate, and they're going to develop much better power. And that power, when we bring it back onto the flat, is really going to help us to improve our gait, to run a bit more smoothly, to run a bit more upright, and to be able to go through the specific neuromuscular pathways that we want to do when we're running. And once we put all that together in one global picture, it'll just make our running easier, smoother, and much better for us to run across any sort of surface. Anecdotally in clinic, I find that most of the runners that I treat for any sort of running injuries or joint pains, strains, or any sort of tension, they're always talking about trying to improve their gait. A lot of people go off and they get gait analysis on treadmills. They do specific drills in the mirror where they're looking at how their body moves. And I would say that's all fine if you're at the high end of your capabilities. So if you're at like elite marathon running, or if you're a very quick 5k, 10k or half marathon runner, that's fine, going and getting some sort of analysis. But if you're just a mid packer like me and you just want to do something very simple, very, very effective to improve your running gait, to make your stride a little bit better and to make you a much stronger runner, those hill repeats is one of the major tools that will get you the maximum results from that. So try them out, let me know in the comments below how to get on. But remember guys, run far, run fast, but most of all, run sensible.